something else that that Kanye has said, and some of the reasons why he loves the president or actually supports the president's policies. I like to ask. I'd like to start with you, Jaye. What are Trump's policies? How are they helping people in our community, people of color in particular?
I'm really not sure. I'm not too much up on Trump's policies. I can't recall any president's policies that's like helped the black community. I can't and honestly, I can't think like what Obama policy helped the black community. I know Obama's physical presence in the White House helped me every day. It made me feel good every day. And that's all I really needed, I guess. So Trump being in the White House and having the demeanor, I'm not gonna act like he doesn't have a disposition that seems more negative than positive, especially from the view of a black man. But I just don't know any presidential policy. Brett is much more informed in presidential politics than I, so maybe he can answer that. But as far as what Trump is doing that's good for the black community is bringing out all of the races, empowering them so they're speaking their truth, which is now in turn forcing the black community to get back to where we were in the days and times where we actually had a strong community. And so for that, I am thankful.
I want to make sure I understand what you just said. Are you speaking in terms of since President Trump has polarized our communities, that he has brought black people in particular and people of color back to our old roots of organizing around this type of racism that's gone rampant in the country? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I believe that is happening.
That's a good policy statement. Brett, why don't you answer that question in any way you can? I know it's kind of a difficult question.
Well, I'm going to say just nothing. That I can sum it up with.
That's pretty clear.
Nothing at all, and that's on multiple levels. And I'll just kind of expand on that a little bit. So we live in California, for example. We live in a state that recently just passed recreational marijuana laws. So that's one thing. But on the state level, on the federal level rather. He has a guy, from Alabama, Jeff Sessions, who is his AG, who is a staunch proponent of keeping it, as Schedule 1 felony on the federal level. And so, when you look at that and you look at, what states like California and Colorado are doing, and then when you look at who's being disproportionately penalized in our system, well, it's folks who look like ourselves. And so again, when you have an individual, going back to what I said a little earlier, when you have an individual that champions policies and then puts people in place that to enforce those policies, that's a recipe for disaster for some communities. And so I quite frankly don't think he's really doing anything that's positive for the African American community. That's just one example, and but I mean there's a litany of them. We can look at some of the HUD policies that Dr. Ben Carson is championing, and one of them is increasing the amount that lower income residents have to spend on their apartments, and in the communities that impacts. Now, granted that's kind of a socioeconomic matter, but does that impact the African American community and other communities beyond the African American community? Yeah, it impacts a lot of people that are lower income, that may not be able to support that additional percentage that they're going to have to pay, in rent for low-income housing. So I mean, across the gamut, this individual in the White House, and I seldom refer to him by title and name. It's not polite to use profanity on television, but I think he's the champion of policies that largely that have adverse impact to communities such as ours all across this country. So just going back to my original answer, nothing.
Make sure you visit On the Spot Live at YouTube, Facebook, or our website for updates and more information.